Hey, good evening, everybody. Glad you're here for tonight's amazing workshop on nutrition. One of the most important topics, how to make sure that you're taking care of your body properly, involved not only allowing the power that God put in your body to flow properly, but also proper lifestyle. So today we're going to be talking about very important components, things you need to know about what nutrients to take, which ones you should stay away from as well. Because, what happens a lot of times when people don't have the right revelation is that they end up taking things that potentially can cause harm in their body, or they take things that have no effect in their body, in which case they're spending money but having no impact. So we don't want either one of those to be the case. We want you to know what to take, what to stay away from. A couple of things I want to share. The first thing is I always like to put things in the right perspective. And for me, having graduated from doctorate school in holistic care, going to school for 8 years. The reason why I was so passionate about learning about nutrition is because while I was going to school, my dad was here in New York being diagnosed with cancer, going through all these different medical conditions, suffering, watching him go through chemotherapy and radiation that nearly killed him, watching him in pain all the time. A desire was born in my heart to want to understand what causes the body to break down and how to get well naturally. Because at an early age, I realized that taking drugs for problems wasn't really working too well with my dad. What's really interesting, though, is before I went to school at Life University in Atlanta, Georgia, I had to do some classes over here in Long Island. And the school that I went to, one of the professors happened to be a holistic doctor. And he knew a lot about nutrition. I mean, he knew about like what vitamins to take for each type of condition there was. And I was so inspired by that because I never heard anything like that, that when I got to school, I wanted to take conferences to learn about what kind of supplements help with what type of conditions. And so over the course of going to school for 8 years, I share this to say that I probably had been to over 50 different conferences to learn all the ins and outs of nutrition. And I learned a lot about nutrition, not only in school, but also in those conferences. And so a lot of what you're going to hear is coming from over 30 years of research in nutrition. I just, in general, I want to start out by sharing some ideas that most of us don't know when it comes to nutrition. And one of the primary things, when you buy products at a store, those are called over-the-counter supplements, or OTC for short. There are 3 different types of nutrient supplements you can get. The first type is called over-the-counter, OTC supplements. And like one of the companies that we use that has OTC supplement is called Now, N-O-W, because it happens to be a company that is cost effective, but also makes purity in products. And I want you to know that a lot of times you can take a supplement that has a lot of fillers in it. So even though you're looking at the ingredients and it says vitamin A, the company itself uses a lot of fillers. And so even though you're taking vitamin A, the impact of what you're taking isn't as strong because it's got a lot of fillers in it. And so one of the things that we always look for when it comes to product lines is whether or not they have some level of approval with the FDA, and the particular subdivision of the FDA that's called GMP. So whenever you buy a product, let's say you go to a store and you want to buy a product, you're not sure, is this one going to have a lot of fillers? Is it not? How do I know? The first question you always ask is that product GMP approved? Now, what is GMP? GMP stands for Good Manufacturing Processing. And what it does is it measures the level of disintegration. What does that mean in English? That means when you take that product, the rate at which it gets digested in your body, that matters. Why does it matter? Because if you take a product and you're not digesting it well, then you took it in one end, it went out the other, and you got no absorption whatsoever. But on the bottle, it says 1,000 milligrams of vitamin A. In other words, you're thinking you're taking something, but yet you have zero absorption of it. Why? Because you have to have good disintegration of that supplement. Now, the problem is that a lot of companies are not GMP approved. And a lot of companies don't hire an outside, what they call an independent assay. What is that? It's a third party that comes in and measures your product, a third party, meaning there's no connection, and types out a report, and that report is given to the GMP to get your approval. So there's a lot about nutrition. I remember when I was going to school, my dad didn't know anything about nutrition. I mean, my dad was smart. He was a dentist by trade. He was a doctor. But when it came to nutrition, he didn't have any knowledge at all. And so he picked up the Centrum. Right? You guys remember the Centrum? So people might be on Centrum. Don't take insulted by the Centrum, but let me tell you, Centrum's really good for the soil, meaning most of what you're taking is not being absorbed at all. So the reality is, because the supplement is not GMP approved, the amount of absorption is never being assessed. And so a lot of times you'll find that supplements you're taking are not having the impact you're looking for them to have. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So you have what's called over-the-counter, and then you have what's called professional use only. Now, this is the supplementation we like to use here. Professional use only. Why? Because it's more potent. So why can't they just buy it buy it in the supermarket? Because their concern is if you take something that's potent the wrong way, it can have a detrimental effect in your body. Does that make sense? Yes. So what am I telling you about nutrition then? That there are different levels of potency, and the ones that a lot of times we purchase in the supermarket or the vitamin shop are called over-the-counter. They're not professional use. Why? Because the guy who has, working for the store did not go to school as a doctor to learn about nutrition. So their concern is that if they sold professional use products in the store, the guy who works at the counter doesn't really know which ones you need, and he can give you the wrong things and be held liable, right? So you have to be a doctor to give professional use only products. Now, some of those companies that we use, one of them, as an example, are called the BCN products that we use. These are custom designed products. But we also use companies like Zymogen. We use companies like NutriWest. We use companies like Standard Process. We use companies like Systemic Formulas. Now, because I've studied nutrition so extensively, I went out and studied what are the top products or what are the best companies that make professional use products. And because I'm not tied to any one product line, I'm going to get the best products of each one of those. Does that make sense? Yes. I'm not tied to a company. What I'm tied to is what produces results. What's been tested, what has GMP approval, what's professional use only. And when it comes to a lot of professional use products, a lot of times what you're looking for is what's called whole food supplementation. Now, we're going to cover a lot of information today. This is recorded, so you'll be able to listen to it. But when it comes to whole food supplementation, what it means is that when you naturally pick up something like a grape, and it has vitamin C in it, it doesn't just have vitamin C in it. It has vitamin C with other vitamins in it. And when you combine those things, those vitamins, it produces what's called a synergistic effect. And so when you purchase a whole food supplement line, a lot of times the ingredients of the vitamins are lower than what you're used to seeing if it's a standalone vitamin. Does that make sense? The reason why 10 milligrams of vitamin C would work better in whole food is because it's coupled with other things to be like a natural, where you pick up a grape, you would have the vitamin C with other things. A whole food supplement often has a synergistic effect, so they don't have to give you high doses of the vitamin. Does that make sense so far? Okay, we're building. So what we know so far is that there's what we call over-the-counter vitamins, and we were mentioning the best, what I've seen in all the years in practice is that NLW is one of the best brands for that. The reason why we mentioned is because a lot of other brands can have fillers, and we also said that the number one way to assess that is to see if it says GMP approved. Right? That makes sense so far? So if you're going to decide to buy anything at a vitamin store, what do you need to make sure that it is? GMP. Very good. Just write that down, lock that in, start that out. You do not want to pick up any product that is not GMP approved. Why? Because it hasn't been tested for its ability to be absorbed. We're going to hold up the questions for the end, okay? So what I want you to know is that you need GMP approval, and the GMP is also, there's one other name for it when you work with professional use companies. They don't call it necessarily GMP. When it's professional use, they call it USP. What is USP? United States Pharmaceutical. Now, what do they measure? They're not measuring anything other than how well does this product get absorbed and digested. In other words, what is the disintegration rate of this product? How pure is this product? Because I can make a product in my basement, fill it with magnesium stearate, not tell you how much of that is magnesium stearate, just call it filler in the ingredients, have you take it, and even though it says 1,000 milligrams of this vitamin, the reality is most of it's the filler. And you would have not nearly the effect you should have, but yet you wouldn't know it. So when we just look up the cheapest version of vitamin A, the cheapest version of vitamin C, unfortunately a lot of times you're getting something that is not USP or GMP approved, okay? So when you go to the store, I would say, look, I'm going to give you the shortcut answer. If you don't know what to do, you just get supplements that we have here. Why? Because Dr. A tested it for you. So he's only bringing the best here. So again, I'm not tied to any company. So if somebody had a company and this company is better, I would do the investigation and tell you yes it is or no it's not. But I'm giving you some background as far as how I am able to investigate and research to tell you that what you're getting is the best of the best. Does that make sense? Because all of that covers so far, what we're covering is the idea of taking vitamins and minerals, which a lot of times you can take over the counter. But when you step into the world of whole food supplementation, now you're a lot of times talking about professional use. Why? Because it has a bigger impact, a bigger effect, and that's not something they'll just sell in a regular vitamin shop. Does that make sense so far? There is one other, which I don't recommend. It's called prescription medication. And they do the same thing. I remember one time I had a guy fill out a form, and on there he had it was list your medications, and he put vitamin D, and I said, vitamin D, not medication. Oh no, that one is prescription use. My doctor had it synthetically made. I'm like, okay, you don't need to synthetically make vitamins. You know, you just take them the way they are. Nature is good enough. The way God created it is good enough. You don't have to artificially make it in a laboratory. So why would that even exist? This is what I was going to get to. Why would they even have synthetic vitamin D? Anybody know why? Because you can patent it and sell it. You can't patent what's natural. So let me give you an example. And if Lance, if we can get a bottle of Peace Park Research's D-Lenolate, please. Yeah. The concept of nutrition has a lot of ins and outs to it, you know? A lot of times when people come to our practice, we're talking about the power of alignment, talking about how God created your body to heal itself. There's a power within you given to you by God that can heal you, and we need to keep in alignment so the power can get from the brain to the body. That's absolutely true. And a lot of times we talk about what's the most important bone in your spine? C1. I talk about the C1 has to be at 31, the curve has to be at 42, so that the body can heal, because when you're out of alignment, it blocks healing, right? And so a lot of times I talk about C1, thank you. So a lot of times about C1, and sometimes I wonder, like, do people know that the same level of extensive research I did to understanding spinal alignment and the impact it has on neurology, I've done that same amount of intensity learning about nutrition. But I say, why don't you talk about that when you do a talk? Because it'd be overloading. So it's like, you want to understand first and foremost, there are principles that govern health. And the number one principle that governs health, I was sharing earlier today when I did a talk, I said, look, when I first purchased a car, I think my first car was it was a Datsun, and it was like $500, and I got my first car, and I was so excited. Nobody told me, like, I needed to do oil changes and stuff. It was like an old, rundown car, and I was just driving it, right? And then the lights started, you know, with the check engine light and the check brake light. I didn't know, like, you had to check that out right away neither, so I just kept driving it around, right? And one day it just didn't start. And I was like, this can't be good. I finally got it to start. I took it over to the mechanic, and the first question he asked me is, when was your last oil change? And I said, a what? I was like 18. It was like my first car, And he said, an oil change. I said, what's that? I don't know what that is. And he said, you've never got an oil change? He said, how long you get this car? I said, I had it for like a year. And he said, well, you killed the engine. What are you doing? And I said, nobody told me. Because sometimes nobody told me it should be okay then. And the reality is he said, it doesn't matter if somebody told you or not. Your car seized the engine. You destroyed the engine. And I was like, oh, that sucks, And back then, 500 was a big deal for me. And it was a lot back then, not compared to what it is now today with the economy the way it is. That's probably like $2,000 for a car like that. But anyway, what ended up happening is I did not understand how to steward that car. Does that make sense? Because what you don't know how to steward or take care of breaks down.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we should learn from our mom and dad. But what if they don't know? You don't know. And when it comes to the idea of your body and your health, a lot of us have not been taught how to steward our body. Is that right? Because when I talk about like a check engine light, a check brake light, you're like, yep, I got it. Oh yeah, no, you have to do that. Because we've learned how to steward a car better than we have how to steward your body. That's the truth. So a lot of times we're starting from scratch and teaching you how to take care of your body better, because the understanding is that there are principles that govern your ability to steward that thing. In other words, you each know you're supposed to get oil change. You know you're supposed to get, fluids put in, I don't even know, tune-ups, whatever they call tune-ups, right? And you also know, like, if the check engine light goes on, hey, you got to get it to the mechanic right away, right? But can I tell you that your body also needs maintenance? Like, the reason why after you correct your spine, you come in for regular maintenance is because that which you don't maintain breaks down. It's a principle. A principle is something you can count on. When you don't maintain a car, it breaks down. You don't maintain your teeth, they break down. You don't maintain a spine, it gets worse. So the law of maintenance is one of the principles that govern health. And then, there are principles, there are 8 total, 8 laws that govern health, what I've come to realize. And the one that we're talking about tonight just happens to be called the law of variables, also known as the law of lifestyle. What is the law of lifestyle? The things that you eat, the nutrients you take, and the toxins you're exposed to are going to either stress your body or support your body. So you can either support your health or you can stress your health. By what? The foods we eat, the supplements we take, and the toxins we're exposed to, and the food, air, water. And I'm building here, but I want you to understand that when you come here, being a holistic facility, you're getting the totality of all of it. But you're getting it in a way that is foundationally or fundamentally right. What do I mean? I mean that if your brain is trying to send a signal to your body and the C1 bone is out and you're blocking the way that signal is coming through, you don't need more nutrition, you need to unblock the block. Does that make sense? Because the power that runs your body is being blocked. It's not about supplementing a whole bunch of nutrition to compensate for that. It's about unblocking what's stopping you from healing. But once you're having that power flow through, then we begin to look at what are you doing with the foods you're eating, what's your nutrition like. And so that being said, I realized a long time ago that when people used to come to our practices, when I first started 23 years ago, I would check them for nutrition because there's a way that we can ask the divine intelligence of your body through muscle testing. Some of you must have seen that at the office already where they test your arm. You can test by asking the divine intelligence of your body what nutrients it needs. And I would take a product, I would put it in somebody's energy field here, and then test their arm, and if they got strong, that means that was good for them, and if it blew weak, that means they didn't need that one. And so I never had to guess what supplements are good or not, but after 30 years of testing like that, you started realizing certain supplements test good a lot, and other ones don't. And so a lot of what you see us selling here in the office has been through extensive testing, through applied kinesiology. We're checking to see if it's USP or GMP approved. I'm checking to see if it's over-the-counter professional use. I'm checking to see that they're making organic products. I'm checking to see that there's no fillers, no pesticides, no preservatives. There's a whole bunch of rigorous testing that, as a health and wellness expert, I'm doing so that you don't need to. But yet, why do I tell you these things? Because you may be in a different state and in need of a nutrient, and if you walk into a store, I need you to know how to tell what's good and what's not. Because I don't want you picking up something that has a whole bunch of fillers, and you're like, Doc, I took the zinc like you said, but it didn't do anything. And it's like, well, what company did you buy? Well, I bought John Smith's zinc. John Smith made it in his basement, and the reality is it wasn't USP approved, it wasn't GMP approved, and it wasn't tested properly. Now, sometimes they won't test it because there's extra cost to testing it. So they don't want to spend the money. And sometimes they won't test it because if somebody saw what was in there, they'd be like, you can't sell this product like that. So vitamins are not like drugs, and I want you to understand that the testing of the product is different. And so I want you to know that if you're going to a store, it has to be either GMP, or who remembers the other three initials? USP. Okay, so we talked about vitamins, minerals, and we talked about whole foods. Now I'm going to give you another category, herbs. Herbs are extremely dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, let me give you some reasons why. Number one, when you purchase an herb, it's also based on the soil that it's growing in. Now, if you don't know where it's growing, you have no idea who's growing that soil and what they're speaking over that soil and who's behind that soil. You could be picking up something that some witch is putting a curse on before you pick it up. And that's actually an accurate statement. Now, you pick up, when you purchase herbs, also when they make oriental herbs, for example, the person making the ground may be aware of how to work with different seasons, when certain herbs prosper better in spring and not fall, and may have a good understanding of the way the winds go. And somebody in America is just like, oh, I'm going to make it right here in my basement. Same idea. Well, then there's more when it comes to herbology. The other concept of herbology is that when you purchase a product, it's not only based on the milligrams, it's based on what we call, and I want you to write this word down, what's the standardization? Standardization. A lot of people don't measure that, or they don't know that there's a different level of standardization. What is standardization? The intensity or potency of the herb. Standardization. Now remember I said I'm teaching you all this so you have some basic fundamentals, but if you leave here and you're going, wow, that was just a lot of information, I want you to know you don't have to go investigating it. It's already done for you, and we have the best of the best here, but I want you to know why. So when it comes to herbs, I'm going to point out one of the most powerful herbs that I find in all the years I've been in practice comes from the olive leaf tree. It's called olive leaf extract. And olive leaf extract is known to have antibacterial properties like a natural antibiotic, but it's also antiviral, which antibiotics are not. That means it kills viruses. It's also antiparasitic, which means it kills parasites. It's also antifungal, which means it kills fungus and yeast. So, and how it works, one of the main things it does, it strengthens your immunity, so your body can fight off that thing better. But let me give you a little basis on the company that we use, East Park Research, because it's the only company that I've seen that actually did the scientific studies and paid the money to show you that their products are effective. Now, I want to tell you how powerful olive leaf extract is, that Upjohn Pharmaceutical Company, they tried to take this product and duplicate it synthetically in a laboratory because the study showed that people that had different forms of herpes, including shingles, as well as this was the only supplement that was able to completely destroy it. So they said, man, if we can make this into a drug and we can patent it, we can make a lot of money of the people that have herpes. The problem is that they could not make it stable enough synthetically. Okay, now see if you can follow me, but See, I studied organic chemistry. And so when you study organic chemistry, they teach you that to every molecule, there's what they call an enantiomer. That has to do with the way it spins, whether it spins clockwise or counterclockwise. Usually they put an L or D in front of it, and that lets you know which way it's spinning. It's God's given me a photographic memory. Let me tell you, when I went to organic chemistry class, I would be able to go to class and then do these things after, and people say, don't you need to study? And I'm like, no, I got it. The teacher said it. I don't understand why you're studying. And they're like, it took me a while to realize not everybody has a photographic memory. But anyway, I could go back. When I'm talking to you, I can go back to the class that I learned it in, the exact time the teacher saw it with the board in the background, and tell you the formula on the wall. And I know now why God gave me that, because there's a lot to learn when it comes to health and wellness. And so anyway, I was talking about enantiomers, and so what Upjohn Pharmaceutical did is because in natural component, in the natural molecule, natural compound, it has one type of enantiomer, and when you try to duplicate it, they couldn't do it in a way that was stable enough, so they gave up the study, but yet the study that they paid for showed how it would completely reverse herpes. So, anyway, that being said, East Park Research has the strongest standardization of that product. So let me give you an example. Now, also has what's called D-lenolate. See how they put the D in front of it? Remember I said it's either L or D? Okay. Why is it called D-lenolate? Because it's the right natural enantiomer that your body can utilize properly, but it's not synthetic, it's natural. Now, why didn't Upjohn Pharmaceutical sell it? Because there's no money in something that's natural. If I make it into a synthetic component, then I can patent it, which means it belongs to me only. And that's when they'll sell it. So because L-lenolate, it could not stabilize, they give up the study, but D-lenolate is how it's made in nature. Okay, it is D-lenolate. It comes from olive leaf trees. It's called olive leaf extract. And this company, I believe last time we checked, it was 23% standardization. The thing about herbs is they don't have to write the standardization on it. So when Now has a product called D-lenolate, I one time didn't know any of this. And so I couldn't get my hand on one of these. I went to the store and I picked up the Now version. And usually when I'm under the weather, I would take the stronger doses called D-lenolate plus, and I would take like 2 of these 4 times a day. It's a 3-day formula, and 3 days knocks out anything, virus, bacteria. I would say if you have in your house, you know how they call them medicine cabinets? So you're going to change the word when you leave here today. You're going to start calling it nutrition cabinet, because we don't need a whole bunch of medication. What we need is a whole bunch of nutrition, right? So from now on, you call it the nutrition cabinet. I was about to say, I always have 2 of these in my nutrition cabinet. And I do. Because if I'm ever under the weather, I can take 2 tablets 4 times a day of D-lenolate plus. It's a 3-day formula. And usually within 3 days, I'm good. But sometimes I'll take 2 bottles. It'll take 6 days, right? So anyway, I was away, and I couldn't get this because they don't have this one in stores. So what did I do? I went and I knew that Now has a good product. Now's a good company. And I picked up D-lenolate and Now, and I took it for 3 days and had 0 effect. And I was like, what? How is that possible? Now's a good company. They're GMP approved. I know the quality's right. But I did not know that when it comes to herbs, specifically, standardization is a concept to think about, because they don't write it on here. So the dose had the same milligrams. But when I called up Now and I said, I have a question, I said, what's the standardization? And it was a lot less, but the milligrams were the same. So I got tricked into thinking it was the same. See how that works? So why do I tell you that? Because just because you heard an herb is good for you, if you take that herb from a company that doesn't have it in a strong enough dose, you won't see the same effect. So now let me say one more thing about herbs. you have to be careful where you get herbs. Because just like we said earlier, somebody could make it in their backyard and you don't know what kind of soil they got, what kind of things they're speaking over it, what kind of enchantments they're doing over it. You got no idea what they're doing with it. And you're taking it not realizing that there's much more you're taking than just an herb. So that being said, so far we've covered vitamins and minerals over the counter. Now is the best company for that. We talked about professional use only supplements, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And then we talked about herbs. And the one particular herb that I'm mentioning that each of us should have in our house is called D-Lenolate Plus. And at least 2 of these should be in the house. Let's talk about some over-the-counters I think each of you need in the house. In the what cabinet? Nutrition. You guys got it. Inside your nutrition cabinet, each one of you should have zinc picolinate. Now, let me tell you about zinc. A lot of people don't know this, but it's the #1 mineral of your immune system. So if you want your immune system to get stronger, what do you need? Zinc. Now, zinc is going to strengthen your immune system. What does your immune system do? Fights off bacteria, virus. But you know what else your immune system fights off? Cancer. So if your immune system is stronger and you have cancer cells in your body, it's going to fight them off better. Now, I don't know if you know this, but everyone has cancer cells in their body. Yes. The average healthy body has about 10,000 cancer cells per day. But what kills those cancer cells is called your immune system. Well, Dr. Ray, what does that have to do with my spine? Well, when C1, the first bone in your neck, is out of position, because it blocks the brainstem, which goes to your immune system, the research shows it compromises your immune function by 400%. Which means that as you're correcting C1, you're giving your body a chance to fight off cancer 400% better. So you're increasing your body's ability to fight cancer by how much? 400%. Every person on the planet should get C1 adjusted just for that mere fact. But if you have cancer, every person in the cancer ward should know that if their C1 is in alignment, their body is able to kill off cancer 400 times better. But how come they're not taught that? How come that, because if you understood that, you'd go, every doctor has to make sure the research is done. It's been done by NYU, the chief professor there, his name's Dr. Ronald Perot, P-E-R-O. We have his study. He showed that when you get your spine, your C1 particularly in alignment, your immune system in those people with cancer functions 400 times better, which means your body's 400% better at killing off cancer cells. So why doesn't everybody do it? Because pharmaceutical companies are who are running that entire industry. And they're more interested in managing your sickness than they are teaching you how to fight your body, how your body to fight stuff naturally. Does that make sense? Makes a lot. So, makes a lot of sense, that's right. Okay, so guess what else is in my nutrition cabinet? Zinc. And how many of these do I take? Let me tell you, if you ever get a cold and you have swollen glands and you want to see how fast this works, take 4 to 8 of these a day. Take 4 twice a day. Your swollen glands will come down immediately. So I always take this, but I want to name one more thing. This is important, guys. What I'm going to share with you right now, it's a sensitive topic, but it's extremely important. I want you to hear me if you can. But I know that lately there's been, after the COVID pandemic, they started selling the COVID vaccine. And a lot of people don't know this, but they're using different type of technology in those vaccines. It's not a traditional vaccine. It's what they call mRNA technology. And what this mRNA does is it gets your body to produce something that looks like COVID. It's called spike proteins. And so again, and I want to say this right up front. What I'm sharing with you is based on scientific research. It's not Dr. Ray's hearsay. It's based on Dr. McCullough, who's the leading researcher of COVID, who's in front of Congress testifying about this. So what I'm sharing with that, I'm never going to come up here and just share an opinion unless I say this is my opinion. But what I'm sharing with you is not an opinion, it's validated scientific research. What they found is that when you take the vaccine, your body starts producing spike protein, which looks like the actual virus. So what does your body have to do if there's a virus? It has to kill it. So that's what they're hoping for. You get an immune response. The problem is with mRNA technology, because it's new and they haven't researched it at all, they put the vaccine out before they researched it. Why? Because they were in an emergency type situation. So they didn't research it. They couldn't. They put this out there, and the research subjects are you. Now, what did they find? That's the reality. You're the research subject. They don't know if it's going to work or not until they see what happens with you. What did they find? They found out that certain people's body doesn't stop making it. So what that means is because their body's making this spike protein, your immune system's constantly fighting it, and the result of your immune system fighting this virus is blood clotting. And they have, the name of the documentary you could see is called Die Suddenly. And this documentary gives you the science that I'm about to explain to you. I'm going to give you the simple answer to it, the simple explanation to it. But they actually have morticians, those are the people that take care of dead bodies, seeing these blood clots in people's blood they've never seen before this vaccine existed that are like strings of blood clots. And they have researched that the amount of people having strokes and having heart attacks has significantly jumped high. Now, I'm not saying this to panic anybody because I have an answer. If you took the vaccine and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to give you what to do to counterbalance it. So hear me, but I want to make sure that you're doing something to counterbalance it so that that doesn't happen to you. Because I've heard of more strokes and heart attacks than ever before, and so I want to teach you what to do to help your body be strong enough so that that doesn't happen to you as well as your family members. Because the Bible says that you can do things that seem right to a man, but in the end, lead to death. You can take something that seems like a good idea, but in the end, it causes bigger problems. Now, why? Did somebody intentionally try to kill you? I don't think that. Maybe. But I still don't think. I don't go there. I'm not like that. But what I do know is that they created a vaccine and they rushed it into the market without researching it. Would you guys agree with that? They couldn't research it because they didn't have enough time. They were in a pandemic and they were trying to find answers for people. And they didn't know how this thing was going to work or not. They developed a new technology called mRNA technology. This technology is literally mutating your genes. That's how it does it. It tells your genes to produce something called spike protein. Spike protein is why people were getting as sick as they were. Now your body's producing it, your immune system is fighting it, and what's the end result? I'm going to give it to you. Neurological damage, stroke, heart attacks, and massive inflammation. And blood clotting. So we're finding out that people are randomly dying. Randomly dying. We don't know what happened. They just had a stroke. I don't know what happened to so-and-so. He was doing great, just had a heart attack. He was like in his 30s. Now, if you watch the movie Die Suddenly, they'll give you the science that I'm giving you, just a lot more dry, because it won't be as, like I'm just giving you the bullet, boom, 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 right? But also, they'll give you the morticians, and they'll show you the strings of clotting that they're seeing, and that they're calling each other in that industry, and saying, have you ever seen anything like this? I've never seen anything like this. No, I get this too, I don't know what they are. And they realize it's the immune system fighting off the spike protein, but the spike protein production is not stopping. So what do you need to know? What does your family need to know? Number one, that when your body produces spike protein, it's a stress to your immune system. So what you should do if you've had any sort of vaccines is take zinc on a regular basis. And take 4 a day. Now, it's going to help your immune system work better. So it's going to have other benefits to it too. You follow what I'm saying? It's going to make sure you don't get sick as much. It's going to make sure if there's any cancer cells in your body and your immune system's having a hard time fighting it, it's going to kill them all. So for me personally, I did not get the vaccine, but I take 2 zinc a day. Sometimes I take 4. Because I'm around people all day, I need to make sure my immune system is strong. If I'm breathing in bacteria and viruses, I keep my body strong so I can fight it off better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And and I don't have to live in fear. Keep myself strong. Right? You know, we worked right through the pandemic. I put a mask on for one day, just because it was scaring people for me not to have it. But the reality is that this doesn't mean I wasn't on super immune system defense supplements. I was taking like 8 zinc. I was taking like 8 vitamin A's. I was fasting, because when you're fasting, your body's in a state where it burns off microbes. It's pretty cool. Your body can kill off bacteria and virus better when you fast. Did you know that? Pretty cool stuff. That's why fasting is so powerful. That's why I never have lunch. I didn't eat today. I'm going to eat after this, don't get me wrong, but I didn't eat yet. Because I need my body strong so I can take care of everybody else. So if you had or know somebody that had the vaccine, the mRNA, I would get them on zinc to be on the safe side. Yeah, I would definitely take zinc. Now let me name some more for you that I believe every one of you need to have. The other one that they found works very well for spike protein was quercetin. For whatever reason, when it comes to fighting off spike proteins, zinc quercetin had the biggest impact. Quercetin, Quercetin. Now, the one that we have here, remember I told you I studied this extensively, so we're not just giving you GMP, I'm also giving you the right dose of it, which is 800 milligrams for 2 capsules. We tell you to take 2 twice a day. That's what you should be on. But it also has something called bromelain in it, which is an anti-inflammatory, because if you have clotting, I want to make sure that that's not building up to the point of causing a stroke or a heart attack. So if you had the vaccine, or you know people that have, and by the way, what if you didn't? I'd still take one of these a day. I like my immune system to be strong. So you don't need to, oh, that's only for that. No. It's good for your immune system. It just happens to be that if your body is producing spike proteins, then you need a stronger immune system to fight off that stuff. Does that make sense so far? Quercetin, you can buy these here, by the way. We have enough in stock. I don't know how many we have. We probably have 20 of them. And then the rest you can order on Amazon. But we do have them here. The reason I tell you is because doses matter. Doses matter. So one time I said to somebody, you should take zinc, go to the front and get it. And they didn't have time, so they went and ordered it on Amazon. And they came in and said, I took that zinc, it didn't work. I said, well, let me see what you're taking. And they were taking 10 milligrams. And these have 50, and I told them to take 4, so they should be on 200. I'm like, it didn't work because you need 20 of them. So, you can take something at the wrong dose and have no effect. You follow? By the way, if you've had a vaccine, the doctors know how to test your body and ask the divine intelligence whether or not you should take higher doses or lower doses of these supplements. But I'm giving you the ones you should take, which is, and if you're not under care here, you need to get under care. So if you're a new person in this facility and you haven't heard of any of this, we want to give you an opportunity at the end of today to do a full examination, completely free of charge as our gift to you. So we're going to explain that later. And this is important stuff, guys. It's important. Too many people, the Bible says, my people perish for lack of. Too many people have never heard anything like this. They haven't been taught what to do to counterbalance. See, sometimes people know, oh, I took the vaccine, okay, hopefully it won't affect me. But the reality is there are things you can do to counterbalance what's being produced in your body. Now, some people make more than others because, again, they introduce something new to your body, and you're the trial. They're seeing like, oh, we didn't realize people that have that genetic predisposition, their body don't start producing it all. Well, these people seem to be okay with it, though. Oh, okay. We don't know, we should study. Now, how do they study? They see who dies and who doesn't, and that's what they use as a study guide. So, that we need to counterbalance what it could potentially do. But again, I want to emphasize that the doctors here know how to ask the divine intelligence of your body through what's called applied kinesiology, using your arm as an assessment, because your muscles connected to the nerve system, and you can pose the nutrient in the body's energy field, and the body will test weak or strong and tell you whether you need that product or not. If you had the vaccine, you should be checking for these products. And in reality, you should be on these products anyway, because they're good for you. So if you say, Dr. Ray, what are the vitamins that I take on a regular basis? I take quercetin every day. I take one as maintenance. You can take up to 4 if you're really under the weather. You can take 2 if you're feeling a little bit under the weather. I take zinc. How many of these I take? I take 4 a day. And if I'm really under the weather, sometimes I'll take 8, 4 twice a day. I always have D-linolate plus. These 3 I have in my nutrition cabinet. Now, Dr. Ness, I also want to get Adrenal Manager, if you can, for us. If you're concerned about clotting because of vaccine or otherwise, one of the best supplements is called anti-inflam. And it has what are called systemic enzymes in them. What are systemic enzymes? 2 more, Dr. Nessa. Probiotics and enzymes. What are systemic enzymes? Systemic enzymes help any sort of thickness in the blood, any sort of clotting to begin to get digested. Particularly the natural systemic enzymes that you're using in this product, because I know what they put in here, is called chymotrypsin and trypsin, which they're pancreatic enzymes. They also have bromelain, which comes from pineapple, and they have papain, which comes from pineapple. So they have a whole bunch of systemic enzymes. So if you had or know anybody that had the vaccine, and you're like, I need to make sure that they take some supplements so they can counterbalance it there, but just in case their body's making too much mRNA, let me make sure they're taking some supplements to counterbalance some of that. In other words, help your immune system work better. Then you would have the doctor check you for zinc, quercetin, and anti-inflammatory. Does that make sense? Now, if you're like, Doc, should I get these things anyway? Because they're natural supplements, they're good for you anyway. Because the majority of the planet has a lot of inflammation. You guys know that, right? Inflammation is a number. How do you get so much inflammation? Well, food and also stress. Because when you're under stress, your body produces free radicals in your body. They're like hole punchers. They go around punching holes in your arteries, and that causes an inflammatory response to go repair. Also, when you eat carbohydrates, pasta, bread, rice, potatoes, and your body's breaking it down, it creates what we call oxidative stress in science, and that creates inflammation too. So you get an inflammatory response from eating carbohydrates, from stress, and we used to do this test, we still have it here. It's called an aldehyde test. It's a urine test. And it would give you a color. They put a chemical in there, and it would tell you how much inflammation you had in your body. And the more, it was supposed to be clear, but when it was pink, it means you have inflammation. Well, we did this test probably on 400 people, and nobody was clear. Everybody, after a while, I'm like, I don't even know why we're doing the test, because we know, like, everybody's going to have a lot of inflammation, everybody's going to need anti-inflam, and everybody's going to need low carbohydrates, and everybody's going to need to have green juices. So, like, after you see everybody in the trend, at that point you realize everybody needs to eat better, have green juices, low carbs, and have anti-inflam. We on the same page so far? So what are we covering tonight? We call it Nutrition 101. Are you guys learning some basic fundamentals? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We said earlier, and there's no test at the end of this, but we said there are 3 different types of supplements. We have over-the-counter. What was the second group? Right? That was when they're over-the-counter. We want to make sure they're USP approved, GMP approved. And then we said there's what they call professional use. And we said professional use, you can't buy in a store. You have to go to a provider, a primary healthcare provider that's able to order it. And we said that there are different companies that we really like for that. And one of those companies is called Zymogen. This is one of the companies we have here. Yeah? Is it? Because it's Zymogen, but it's spelled with an X. So you're getting a little confused if you're trying to read it. X-Y-M-O-G-E-N. See, Zymogen does such a good job labeling it that they write GMP, they got the GMP approval, but they're even more specific. What it says on there is third-party verified. They're telling you this is pure. Why? Because we hired an outside company and paid a lot of money for them to test our products just so they could say this is pure, it doesn't have a lot of fillers. So I always look for third-party independent assays, GMP approved, USP approved, organic, pesticide-free, preservative-free, and as we were sharing with you, there's probably about 8 companies out of all the vitamin companies that we would say these are the elite. And then even with those elite companies, there are certain products that work better in different company lines. So like the reason why I was never tied to any one company is because I was looking for what works the best, not what company to sell. So the reason why we have these different companies and different products from each company, even though it can get a little annoying when you do an inventory, is that I want to make sure you guys have the best there is. Now, I want to talk about this one product. If you're not on it, everyone in here needs to be on this one product. The name of the product is called Adrenal Manager. Adrenal Manager. Okay. Hans Selye. His name is Hans, H-A-N-S, Selye, German scientist. Selye is, I believe, S-E-L-Y-E. He studied the role that the adrenal glands have in overall health. The adrenal glands are little glands located above the kidneys. They call them suprarenal or adrenals. He found out that the adrenal glands play the most important role when it comes to overall health because their job is to help you adapt to stress in your life. So whether it's physical stress, meaning running, walking, standing too long, sitting too long, emotional stress, or you just got a lot going on in your life, thinking a lot, you have one gland that's responsible for adapting to that. And that name is called the adrenal glands. And the reality is that we live in a society that's bombarded with stress. We have more stress than ever before. And because our body's bombarded with stress, our adrenal glands are being overloaded. Does that make sense? His study showed that when the adrenal glands get overloaded, they can go into what he calls general adaptation syndrome, or GAS, and it affects all the internal organs. He showed how it can affect and cause heartburn. He showed how it can suppress immune function. He showed how it can cause digestive disorders. He showed how it can cause leaky gut. He showed how it can have an impact on your hormones, throw off your thyroid, how it can affect ovaries and uterus, throw off estrogen and progesterone. He showed how it causes prostate problems. He showed how it causes... So he linked stress to all these different types of conditions because the adrenals have been bombarded. And then he said that the most important nutrient supplement you can take is adrenal support. Because if your adrenal glands get stronger, they can handle the stress in your life better. So for me, this is the one supplement I've been taking for 23 years. I've never missed a week of adrenal support. Because I understand that if I'm going to do a lot and I'm going to help a lot of people, I'm going to need to take care of my body. So how do I do that? Number one, I get aligned. Never miss a week without an alignment, 23 years. Number two, I take adrenal support. Number three, I fast. Number four, I juice. These are how I take care of my body. So even though I'm 50 years old and I've been doing this for 23 years and helped, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people, laying hands on people, doing what I do is physically demanding. And people say, how are you able to do that? I take care of my body. You got to take care of your body. But like, I take care of my body better than I do my car. But most people got it reversed. They take care of their car better than they do their body. That's not good, right? Man, you should take care of both, by the way, just so you know. Okay, so one more supplement. And then we're going to wrap up. And I'm going to put it all together for you guys. I give you a lot of, what we say, meat. I gave you a lot of meat. We're going to put it all together for you. Sometimes you got to start strong so you get people's attention. The attention span is different these days. My gosh, I remember when I used to do a talk 20 years ago. It was like, people were just listening, they were fully alert. But now with all the media stuff, with YouTube and Facebook and all that, it's like, man, you got like 30 seconds to make something, to say something important. Otherwise, they just shut off. Because the truth is, there's so much information coming in, you can't receive what's coming in, so you just shut off very fast. That's how you're able to move around. So you got to be real effective in your ability to communicate and give people meat. Okay, so this is called Zymozyme. Zymozyme. Let me spell it for you. XYMO ZYME. It's a form of enzymes, but these are not systemic enzymes. They're what we call digestive enzymes. Yeah, I'm going to spell it again. XYMO ZYME. XY what? ZY, what is the last? You guys got it. When you're eating more than one meal a day and your body's under stress, a lot of times it doesn't produce the enzymes you need to break down the food. So when you take an additional enzyme, it helps you digest your food better. But the reason why that becomes important is because when you're not digesting your food right, a lot of times the food is what we call partially digested. And when you absorb, your partially digested food goes into the bloodstream. To the immune system, it looks like a foreign agent. It looks like some sort of bacteria or virus. So your body formulates a response. It stresses your immune system and can lead to autoimmune type disorders, which are things like asthma, allergies, fibromyalgia, systemic lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, the list goes, scleroderma, ulcerative colitis. By the way, if you know anyone with these things, they should be here because we know how to help them. We know how to help their immune system and digestive system function again. I have a pastor that was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. She had massive pain in her hands. She couldn't lay hands on people anymore. She came here within 3 months. She's fully healed. That's incurable, they told her. We see incurable things healing all the time. The reason why is because when they say incurable, they mean incurable with drugs. You see, the God that we serve heals everything. And so praise God. Right? Isn't that interesting? That's so bold to say something incurable. Because what they're saying is that if we can't heal you with our drugs, nothing else can. But in reality, what drugs can't do, God can. And His power is already in you. So like, Dr. Ray, why do I have to get aligned so that you can get His power flowing through? Because if His power can't get through, your body can't heal right. So your body can heal from any disease known to man because there's a power within you given to you by God that heals you. But if that power is being blocked, you'll never heal right until you unblock it. Does that make sense? So our job is to unblock it so the power can do healing. And so a lot of times we tell people that, hey, the reason why you have to get your spine checked is because out of all the bones in your spine, the most important bone is up here at the top. It's called C1. And when C1 comes out of place, it blocks the way the brain is sending life and healing to the body. So when that power that runs your body can't get through, your body's dying. And as soon as you find out where it's out of alignment, you start aligning it over time and repetition, and then you take another x-ray and you show the person they're getting better. Now they're getting that power to come through. And so like the pastor that came in, I expect her rheumatism to get better. I expect pain to go away. I expect all your problems to get better because I'm not the healer. The power within you is the healer. God is the healer. I rely on divine intelligence. I don't need to rely on artificial intelligence. I don't need to rely on man's intelligence. You got something far greater in your body. You have divine intelligence. You don't have AI, you have what we call DI. DI. Hey man, we use DI here. Oh, you use DI? Yeah, DI. DI is way better. Far superior technology. We're talking about technology. God's technology is far greater than any AI or man's technology. Man's technology, man's intelligence. People started saying, wait a second, we're not trusting all these doctors with all these drugs no more. That's not for me. They said, no problem, now we got computers. You can trust in our computers. They're like, no, I'm going to trust in God's intelligence. Yes. And that power flows from the brain to the body, but you have to have your spine in alignment. And your spine comes out of alignment due to physical stress, trauma, injuries. There are so many things that cause your spine to come out of position. Who remembers the first time your spine comes out of alignment?
At birth.
So if your spine, according to Harvard Medical Research, 90% of us had our spine misaligned at birth. So if the spine comes out of alignment at birth, when do we want to get that spine corrected? Birth. A lot of us, like I was sharing this morning, you haven't taken care of your spine for 50 years, it's going to have a lot of misalignments in it. The good news is, as we get it corrected, that power that God put in your brain can now run your body again, the signals get through and your body functions again. So I want you to know that as we're summarizing tonight, I'm going to put it all together right now, a couple of things I want to encourage you guys to do. Number one is we're starting this year, what we're going to do is we're going to have a revelation campaign. And what that means is I am going to put a lot of information out through YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel that I have, I encourage you to get on there. Because what we covered tonight is just the basics. But we're going to break it down, and we probably covered about 30 different topics that I can go into about 10 hours of research and information on and share testimony and research articles, but not in a way that's dry, in a way that's entertaining, okay? So what I want you to do is look up my YouTube channel and do this if you can now, or make a note of it. Just put Dr. Ray Omid and subscribe. And what's going to happen is you're going to start getting, probably within the next month or so, you're going to start seeing notifications for podcasts and videos that we're going to start putting out content for. Because what I'm giving you tonight is a lot of information. And I didn't even scratch the surface. Like when it comes to vitamins, I can talk another 32 hours. Just straight. Just let it flow. So that being said, that content needs to be out there. You guys agree? Because if we don't know where to turn to, then we just go to a YouTuber. And we have no idea that the YouTube didn't study the difference between GMP, USP, over-the-counter, professional use, prescription. He don't know any of that stuff. So he's like, oh, CoQ10's good. But the reality is, well, what company are you using? Has that been tested? Is it professional use? Is it a whole food? Is it coming with other things? Is it individualized? Has it been tested? So there's a lot more to the conversation than just the name of the vitamin. Does that make sense? And so we have to start teaching people how to be able to understand things. And then the other problem is that a lot of times somebody's spine will be all crooked and bent out of shape, and they'll go, but I'm taking CoQ10. I don't know why I had a heart attack. It's like, because there's no power getting your heart. It's not just about the vitamin. It's about understanding where the conversation about vitamins belongs in the overall picture. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to give you a summary again. When it comes to health, I want you to write this down. There are 8 laws. I'm not going to cover them today because we're going to be having that on our YouTube channel. 8 laws. 8 laws that govern health and wellness. 8 laws or principles that govern health and wellness. There are also 8 laws, and there are 10 dangers to your health and wellness. 10 what? Dangers to your health and wellness. So during the course of the next year, we are going to put out, when I say we, I mean I'm going to put out a lot of podcasts that cover each one of these laws and each one of these dangers. Now the Bible says that my people perish for lack of, that means they suffer because they don't know the laws, and they also suffer because they don't know the dangers. What are some of the dangers that we're going to cover? We're going to cover things like antiperspirant. How many of you know that the antiperspirant that we use has aluminum in it?
Yes.
And how many of you know aluminum causes severe damage to your body? In fact, it's one of the main things that cause cancer.
Yes.
So people are spraying chemicals that cause cancer into their body. So there are things that you can use instead of using antiperspirants that are natural, but then when it comes to buying a natural deodorant, some work and some really don't work at all. So somebody tries to get one and they go, that thing didn't work at all, I'm going back to the antiperspirant, you know? But there are some that work very well, so we need to teach you the difference. I want to teach you the different things to avoid because there are toxins in the food, air, water supply. So again, I want to emphasize that over the course of the next year, we're going to have a lot of podcasts, We're going to have a lot of workshops because we want to teach you, we want to empower you, we want to inspire you, and we want you to be able to be that person in your family that ushers in generational health. Because can I tell you that this whole idea about generational sickness needs to stop? So many people, you say, oh, doc, it runs in my family. Well, so do all the same habits. So do the misalignment. So does the C1 misalignment. So does the same antiperspirant I've seen your mom using. It's the same one. Somebody's got to teach you what to use instead. Does that make sense? How many of you heard of Teflon? They make the non-stick pans with Teflon. How many of you know that Teflon is called a forever chemical? Do you know why they call it forever chemical? Because once it goes in your body, it never comes out. How many of you know Teflon is associated with causing cancer? Yes. They did a movie about it. It's a good movie, by the way, called Dark Waters. If you hadn't seen it, go see it. Because the company that produced it, DuPont, paid over, I think, something like $300 million. Don't quote me on the number, but it was a massive amount for all the cancer they caused in people's lives. And they still got it out. I don't even know how they still sell this product. It's crazy. So we're going to cover things like glyphosate. How many of you know what glyphosate is? Glyphosate is the pesticide that they use. A lot of your fruits and vegetables have glyphosate on them. But glyphosate is another word for Roundup. Or that's what they use on all the fruit and vegetables. But that glyphosate crosses the blood-brain barrier. According to research, that causes brain damage. Takes aluminum and mercury up with it. Is associated with aluminum mercury is associated with Alzheimer's disease, memory loss. So you can be taking fruits and vegetables, not realizing because they're not organic, you're also taking in glyphosate every time you take it. And people say, somebody once said, but doc, they wash it. And I said, okay, if I take out an apple and I spray it with Raid in front of your face, that cockroach spray, and then I put it under a sink and wash it, would you eat it? Well, glyphosate's way more powerful than Raid. Raid is nothing. They would never use Raid on the farm. Raid would do nothing on those things. So they got to use the strongest pesticide there is. And then you're eating it. But I'm taking good, I'm eating apples. I'm like, yeah, but that's not even an apple because it's genetically modified and it's got a whole bunch of glyphosate on it in addition to that. So what are we telling you? Because a lot of you are hearing a lot of things for the first time, and what I'm saying is that we want to make sure that you're getting this in bite sizes so that you can absorb and digest it. So we're talking about 8 laws. We're talking about 10 dangers. We're talking about nutrition because part of those laws, the first one is the law of alignment. Again, we mentioned if you're a new person, you haven't been in our practice, you need to have an exam done. So any person who's never been here before, we do a complimentary exam for you. You can schedule that in the front. Just go to the front and get that scheduled. But that's the one law. Then in addition to that, there's another 7 we have to teach you. Like there's what we call the law of repetition, which means that if you want to make a change in your spine, you need repetition. So it's important to stay on a regular schedule and not miss appointments without making them up. Does that make sense so far? We have a law of process that says that processes take time. And so when it comes to healing, it takes what? Everybody say that together? We have what are called the law of lifestyle variables, which is the foods you eat, the nutrients you're exposed to, the toxins your body's exposed to. So you want to learn that stuff. So, but when you leave here tonight, because we talked about nutrition, I want to go over what supplements I believe each of you should leave here with. Okay? Number 1, each of you should be leaving with a bottle of zinc. Each of you should have in your nutrition cabinet zinc. And as a maintenance dose, you should be taking 2 of these a day. If you know that you're going to be under the weather, let's say a lot of people are sick around you, I would take 4. And if you're really sick, you could take up to 8, just for a week or so. Okay? In addition to zinc, remember the name of the other one we should take for the immune system? Quercetin. That's right. I believe that every person here should have these in your nutrition cabinet. And by the way, you say, what about children? If my daughter, Gabriella, come up here for a second. Everybody say hello to Gabriella. Just let them know what are the best supplements for your immune system. Tell them. Zinc. Wait, what else? Vitamin A. We forgot about V, right? And what about this one? Quercetin. All right. In addition to taking vitamins when you're under the weather, what should you do? Tell them. You should get an adjustment. What area should they be getting adjusted? C1. I'm going to give you a C1 check. Now, what's the third thing we do when somebody's under the weather? Tell them. Pray. Yes. So you need to pray, take nutrition, and get adjusted. She's 9. So what we want to do is raise a new generation of kids that don't get sick or understand how to get their body healthier, stronger, okay? Thank you, Gabriella. That's the future generation coming through. I need that for your children, right? Now I'm showing you that our children are being trained to take care of your children. It's a generational. Health is a generational pursuit. It's a lifetime pursuit. That's another thing. Once you get your spine corrected, you need to maintain it. There's a law called the law of maintenance. Okay? So what should you leave here with? Zinc. What else? Quercetin. And then who remembers the one if you're under the weather, what should you be taking? D-lanolate. What is it? D-lanolate plus. Everybody should have these in their house. Then we mentioned if you had exposure to the COVID vaccine, then you should have a doctor here at some point on one of your visits, or take quercetin, zinc, and what's the one other one we said? Anti-inflammatory. Really important. If you have pain, by the way, a lot of pain in your body, and you're looking for some temporary relief until your alignments hold, what you can take is anti-inflammatory. So it's a lot better than taking aspirin or Tylenol. You know, they did that study with aspirin. Have you been heard? You ever hear somebody say taking aspirin a day is good for you or something like that? You ever hear Do you know who published that article? Bayer, the company that makes the aspirin. You know what they also found out, though, in that same article? Is taking an aspirin a day increased your chance of pancreatic cancer by 88%. Wow. We have a study that was done by the University of Arizona that showed that women who took an aspirin a day increased their chance of cancer by 59%. So if you're thinking, oh, an aspirin a day is no bad, we're telling you take premium anti-inflammatory. It's a much better option. Okay? So you need to know what to do. We're not just going to tell you what's bad here. We're going to tell you what to do instead. I'm not just going to say this thing's bad because some of you are like, I'm doing that. What am I going to do now? I'm going to give you the alternative to it. Okay? So that's the key. All right, a couple other things and we're going to wrap up here. What is the one supplement, professional use only, that everybody should be on? Adrenal management. Now, how do you take these? You take 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. Adrenal Manager will help you adapt to stress. If you have a lot, if you're on the go a lot, if you have a physically demanding job, if you have a lot of tension in your life, you definitely want to be on Adrenal Manager. Now, as you can tell, we didn't have enough time to cover all the vitamins that we have here. And we have over 300 vitamins and minerals. I'm covering 5 or 6 tonight. As you can tell, it would probably take about 300 hours for us to get through all of them. Which is why I say that this year, what is on my heart is to make sure to get you the information you need. Number one, for you, but also you can share it with others. Because 20 years ago, there was no YouTube. You know what I had to use 20 years ago? We had to record these and get discs. And then say, give people discs, and they have to give it out to their friend. I mean, technology is amazing. Because we can use platforms like that and get information like this out to all our friends and family and see a big change. We also want you to know that we're going to be hosting conferences in our office. We have our first one coming up. I think people mentioned it earlier. Like this conference, we're going to be doing these potentially quarterly. They're on Saturdays. They're included in your care if you're an active practice member. And our first one that we're having is a women's conference. And our women's conference is called Beauty the Ashes. And Reverend Marie, let's give her a round of applause. She's with us. She's going to be helping us host that and run that. She's a powerful woman of God. And I don't know, is Robert singing? I don't know if you're singing. Maybe we are now. Maybe you are now. This is Minister Robert. Can you stand up for everybody for a second? Just say hello to Minister Robert. He's a strong gospel Christian singer. I definitely encourage listening to his music because it'll move your heart in the right way, bring a lot of healing to you. So anyway, our first women's conference, the date on that is May 23rd at 11 a.m. It's going to be 11 to 4. It's going to be hosted here in the office. We're going to be giving you science of healing. We're going to be covering the presence of God's going to come in a very strong way. There'll be a lot of anointing here. There'll be a lot of revelation here. There'll be a lot of healing here. This is a great opportunity for you to bring your friends to your place of health and wellness, introducing them to what we do here, because I don't think there's any form of healthcare facility that does this type of stuff. Am I right on that? Yeah. And so what we want to do is we want to introduce them to the spiritual side of things, because can I tell you, the other components to healing, in addition to alignment in your neurology and chemistry, which has to do with foods and toxins, has to do with what's happening in your soul. Yeah. Your soul has been exposed to a lot of stress and a lot of trauma. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but you can generationally pass what you went through in your soul to others. So because that's the case, what happens, and by the way, these are called conditioned responses, and they study this. Your DNA, when it's under stress, will change. And it'll activate certain parts of your genes. So those are called, the genes that you turned on are called phenotypes. Let me tell you who did this study. I don't want to get too deep into this, but let me give you a little bit of it. Bruce Lipton was one of the guys, he was a scientist on the Human Genome Project. And what he said is a lot of people think that genes are what cause disease. He said it's not true at all. He said that what they found out, it's not what genes you have, it's which ones are turned on. And so they don't call it your genotypes, they call that your phenotype. Those are the genes that are what? Turned on. And what he found out was that stress activates certain genes that cause cancer, heart disease, and all those other genes. And so you're now, when you have children, you're giving them your phenotype. So what does that mean in English? The traumas that are left unhealed will affect the genes, and those genes are passing along to your kids. But here's what I want you to know. What you turn on can be turned off. You know one of the ways that you do that? Through proper alignment of your spine has been shown to neurologically shift genetic expression. Through the foods you eat, you can shift genetic expression. Through healing of your soul, you can shift genetic expression. So what you give your children won't be what you got from your parents from all the generations of stress. Does that make sense so far? So, and by the way, your soul is made up of your mind, will, and emotions, also your intellect. And so what happens is that the women's conference, we want to make sure that we teach you how to bring healing to your soul so that your health can be expressed better. Does that make sense? And that literally changes genetic expression. So very important for you to be here and to have any women in your household come to that. If you haven't registered, I don't know where the sign-in sheet is, but maybe we could pass that around, Reverend, or see that I know they could do it online with the link. You have a link, you can do it online and register and bring people, or you can do the sign-in sheet, either or. And definitely get on YouTube, guys. When you leave here, if you haven't done it already, just subscribe to YouTube, because there's so much stuff that we're going to be putting out there. You might not hear some of this stuff, but if you have notifications run on YouTube, you can see that it's going out all the time, okay? We're going to cover 8 laws, 10 dangers, a couple other things I want to share with you, and then we're going to be all done. Our next workshop, I am going to have our next workshop on the 7 main hidden toxins. The key word there is what? Hidden toxins. Which means a lot of times you're being exposed to them without knowing. So we want you to be able to bring your friends and family, bring them here. We're also going to have a mic system set up for us so that the sound can project a little bit more. You'll be able to bring friends and family to that. We should be having that in about 6 weeks. So you want to come to that workshop, bring your family and friends to that, because that's going to be one that's just as important as this one, except there are things that they need to know, because the Bible says, again, there are ways that seem right, but in the end lead to death, okay? So one last thing, I'm going to be here answering any final questions. If you want to get the nutrition, I know we don't have a lot of them, but we have some of them. You can go to the front and get that there. If you have any private questions, I'm going to be up here to answer it. If you're looking to register for the women's conference, make sure to do that with the front, or just do the QR code on the sheet and do that there. Did everybody get something out of tonight? Yes. Praise God. Okay, so thank you, everybody. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Safe God.